The bus lurched to a stop at the corner of Maple and Fifth, brakes hissing in the damp October air. Miles Redding grabbed the overhead rail and stood, his duffel bag heavy against his shoulder. Through the smudged window, he could see the familiar outline of his neighborhood. Small ranch houses with chain-link fences, cars parked on gravel driveways, porch lights casting yellow pools on cracked sidewalks. Friday night in Dayton felt different when you'd been gone a week. The air smelled like rain and wet leaves. Miles stepped off the bus and nodded to the driver, then started the 4-block walk home. His work boots scuffed against the pavement. He'd been in Kentucky for 7 days, fixing commercial HVAC systems in a warehouse that smelled like diesel and stale coffee. The job finished 2 days early. The foreman cut him a check that afternoon and told him good work. Miles thought about calling Talia from the bus station. His phone sat in his jacket pocket, silent. He pulled it out twice, thumb hovering over her name in his contacts. Both times he put it back. Something stopped him, not suspicion exactly, just a feeling. He wanted to see his daughter's face when he walked through the door. Lena would scream and run to him, her small arms wrapping around his waist. 8 years old and still his whole world. The house sat at the end of Birch Street, a modest ranch with beige siding and a front yard that needed mowing. Miles had meant to fix the gutter before he left, but work called and the repair job paid double overtime. Now, the gutter sagged, and someone had left the recycling bin on its side near the driveway. He walked up the path, noticing the front light was off. Talia always forgot to turn it on, even though he'd reminded her a dozen times that a dark porch invited trouble. He fished his keys from his pocket and slid them into the lock. The deadbolt clicked. He turned the handle slow, not wanting to startle anyone. The living room glowed blue from the television. Some sitcom laugh track echoed through the house. Miles stepped inside and set his duffel down quiet by the door. The carpet felt soft under his boots after a week of concrete floors. He breathed in the familiar smell of home, laundry detergent, whatever candle Talia liked, the faint must of old furniture. Then he heard it, a small choke sound, crying. Miles's stomach dropped. He moved through the living room, past the coffee table cluttered with magazines and remote controls. The crying came from the couch. In the dim television light, he saw her, Lena, curled into herself, her knees pulled to her chest. She held her stuffed bear tight, the one with the missing button eye that she'd had since she was 3. Her shoulders shook. "Sweetheart." Miles crossed the room fast and knelt beside the couch. "What's wrong?" Lena's head jerked up. Her face was red and wet with tears. When she saw him, fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby. I'm here." He touched her shoulder gentle. "What happened? Why are you crying?" She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Her voice came out small and broken. "Mom said I ruin everything. She said I make her tired." The words hit Miles in the chest like a hammer. He felt his jaw tighten. When did she say that? Before dinner. Lena sniffled and hugged the bear tighter. I asked if we could make cookies, and she got mad. She said I always want things, and it makes her tired. She said I don't think about how she feels. Miles pulled his daughter close. She felt small and fragile against him. Her hair smelled like strawberry shampoo. He rubbed her back in slow circles the way he used to when she was a baby and couldn't sleep. "You didn't do anything wrong. You hear me?" Nothing. From somewhere in the house, the kitchen, he realized, came the sound of laughter. Loud, careless laughter. A woman's voice, bright and sharp. Then another voice, lower, older. His wife. His mother-in-law. The laughter felt wrong. It scraped against his ears while his daughter cried in his arms. Lena pulled back and looked at him with wide eyes. "You're supposed to be gone until Sunday. Job finished early." Miles wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "I wanted to surprise you. Are you going to talk to Mom?" "In a minute." He kissed her forehead. "You go wash your face, okay? Then maybe we can watch something together." Lena nodded and slipped off the couch. She padded down the hallway toward the bathroom, the bear dragging behind her. Miles watched her go, then stood. His hands felt cold. He could still hear the laughter coming from the kitchen, louder now, more animated. He walked toward the sound. The kitchen was bright, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Talia sat at the small table near the window, a wine glass in her hand. She wore jeans and a tank top, her dark hair pulled into a ponytail. Across from her sat Glinda, her mother, a woman in her early 60s with dyed blonde hair and too much makeup. Chinese takeout containers littered the table. 2 wine bottles stood between them, one empty, one half gone. Talia's back was to the doorway. She laughed at something Glinda said, her head tilted back. Then Glinda looked up and saw Miles standing there. Her smile froze. "Well," Glinda said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Look who decided to show up." Talia spun in her chair. Wine sloshed in her glass. "Miles!" Her eyes went wide. "You're home early?" "Yeah." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Job wrapped up. Figured I'd come home and see how things were." "We didn't expect you." Talia set her glass down too hard. It clinked against the table. "You should have called." "Should I have?" "I mean, yeah, we would have." She gestured vaguely at the table. "We would have waited to eat or something." Miles looked at the takeout boxes. Orange chicken, fried rice, spring rolls. "Looks like you ate fine without me." Glinda took a long sip of wine and watched him over the rim of her glass. "Don't be dramatic, Miles. We just ordered dinner. It's not a crime." He didn't respond. He pulled out the empty chair at the end of the table and sat down. The vinyl seat squeaked under his weight. He didn't reach for food, didn't pour himself wine. Just sat there, hands folded on the table, watching them. Talia shifted in her seat. "So how was Kentucky?" "Fine." Did you finish the job okay?" "Yeah, that's good." She picked up her wine glass again, then set it back down. "Really good." Silence stretched between them. The refrigerator hummed. Someone's car drove past outside, bass thumping through the windows. Glinda cleared her throat and reached for an egg roll. "You look tired," Talia said. Her voice came out too bright, too fast. "You must be exhausted from the drive. You should probably go to bed soon." "I'm fine." "Are you hungry?" "There's plenty of food." "I'm not hungry." Another silence. Talia talked faster now, words tumbling out like she couldn't stop them. "We were just having a quiet night. Mom came over to keep me company since you were gone. We ordered Chinese food and watched some TV. Nothing exciting. Just a regular Friday." "Lena have dinner?" Talia blinked. "What? Did Lena eat?" "Oh, yeah. She had a sandwich earlier. She said she wasn't hungry for Chinese food." Miles looked past her toward the living room, where he could see the edge of the couch. "She seemed pretty upset when I came in." "She's fine. Just being dramatic. You know how kids are." "She was crying?" "Well," Talia waved her hand. "She got in a mood earlier. I don't know. She wanted to bake cookies at 8 o'clock at night, and I said no. She didn't take it well. She said you told her she ruins everything." Talia's face went pale, then red. "I didn't. That's not what I said. She's twisting things. I was tired and she kept asking and asking, and I might have said something about how I need a break sometimes, but I didn't say she ruins things." Miles didn't look away. "That's what she told me. Kids exaggerate." "Do they?" Glinda set her wine glass down hard. "You know what, Miles? Maybe if you were around more, Talia wouldn't be so stressed. She's been handling everything alone for a week. Cut her some slack." He turned his gaze to her. "I've been working. That's why I leave. To work. I know that. I'm just saying, being alone with a kid all week is hard. I'm alone with work all week. Doesn't mean I get to take it out on Lena." Talia's voice went sharp. "I didn't take anything out on anyone." "Jesus, Miles. You've been home 5 minutes, and you're already starting." "I'm not starting anything. I'm asking about my daughter." "She's fine. She's in the bathroom. Go check on her yourself, if you're so worried." Miles stood. The chair scraped across the linoleum. "I will." He left the kitchen without another word. Behind him, he heard Talia mutter something low to her mother. Glinda's response was too quiet to make out, but the tone was clear, annoyed, defensive. He didn't care. Lena had come out of the bathroom and was sitting on her bed when Miles reached her room. The space was small, pink walls covered with crayon drawings and posters of cartoon characters. Her bed sat against one wall, stuffed animals piled at the foot. She looked up when he appeared in the doorway. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, but her eyes were still red. Miles sat on the edge of her bed. The mattress dipped under his weight. "You want to talk about it?" "I'm okay now." She picked at the fur on her bear's arm. "Are you mad at Mom?" "No." The lie felt necessary. "I just want to make sure you're okay." She gets mad a lot when you're gone. Something cold settled in Miles's chest. What do you mean? Lena shrugged. Her voice was quiet, like she was telling a secret. She yells more, and Grandma comes over and they drink wine and laugh really loud. Sometimes they forget to make me dinner. How often does that happen? I don't know. Sometimes. More than once. She nodded. Miles felt his hands tighten into fists. He forced them to relax. Okay, that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. If you're hungry and nobody makes you food, you can make yourself a sandwich. You know how, right? Yeah. Good. He touched her shoulder. I'm home now. Things are going to be different. She looked at him with those big, trusting eyes. Promise. Promise. He stayed with her until she fell asleep, sitting on the floor with his back against her bed, listening to her breathing slow and deepen. When he was sure she was out, he stood and walked back to the kitchen. Talia and Glinda had moved to the living room. The TV was off now. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, wine glasses refilled, talking in low voices. They stopped when Miles appeared. She asleep? Talia asked. Yeah. Good. Talia took a sip of wine. See? She's fine. Kids bounce back fast. Miles didn't sit. He stood near the doorway, hands in his pockets. Your mom's staying the night. Glinda answered before Talia could. I was planning on it. Is that a problem? No. Good. Because I don't feel like driving home after drinking. Fine. Talia has set her glass down on the coffee table. Are you going to stand there all night, or are you going to relax? You're making everyone tense. I'm tired. Think I'll go to bed. Already? It's not even 10. I've been up since 4. He turned and walked down the hallway to the bedroom he shared with Talia. The room was cluttered, clothes on the chair, jewelry on the dresser, the bed unmade. He pulled off his boots and lay down on top of the covers, still fully dressed. Through the walls, he could hear muffled conversation. Talia's voice, rising and falling. Glinda's sharp laugh. He stared at the ceiling and tried to understand the feeling in his gut, the wrongness of it all. His daughter, crying alone while her mother got drunk in the next room. The dismissiveness in Talia's voice when he asked about it. The way Glinda looked at him like he was the problem. He didn't sleep. Hours passed. Eventually, the voices in the living room faded. He heard footsteps, Talia stumbling down the hall, the bathroom door closing, water running. Then the bedroom door opened and she came in, moving slow and quiet, thinking he was asleep. She changed into pajamas and slipped under the covers on her side of the bed. She didn't touch him, didn't say anything, just lay there in the dark. Miles kept his eyes open, watching shadows move across the ceiling from passing headlights outside. When he was sure Talia was asleep, he got up. He moved quiet through the dark house, his socks muffling his steps on the carpet. The living room was empty now. Glinda must have gone to the guest room. He went to the kitchen. Mail sat on the counter in a messy pile. Bills, mostly electric company, water, credit cards. He flipped through them. Several were unopened, red final notice stamps across the front. Under a magazine, he found more mail. Official-looking envelopes. He pulled one out and held it up to the dim light from the stove. County Courthouse. Addressed to Talia. He opened it careful, sliding his finger under the seal. Inside was a notice about unpaid parking tickets. Multiple tickets. Over $800 in fines. Miles folded the letter and put it back. He checked the other envelopes. More bills. A credit card statement showing a balance of $3,000. Charges at restaurants he didn't recognize. Stores he'd never been to. He stood in the dark kitchen, the papers in his hand, and felt something shift inside him. Not surprise. Something colder than that. Recognition, maybe. The sense that things had been wrong for longer than he realized, and he'd just been too busy or too stupid to see it. He put everything back where he found it. Then he went to the couch and sat in the dark, watching the street through the front window, waiting for morning. Dawn came gray and slow. Miles heard Glinda moving around in the guest room around 7. By the time she emerged, he was in the kitchen making coffee. She stopped in the doorway when she saw him, her hair messy, makeup smudged from sleep. You're up early, she said. Have it. She poured herself coffee without asking and leaned against the counter. Look, about last night. It's fine. I don't want you thinking we were ignoring Lena or anything. She's a good kid. She just gets emotional sometimes. Miles sipped his coffee. It burned his tongue. Talia tells you that. What? That Lena gets emotional? Well, yeah. I mean, she's 8. All kids are emotional. Right? Glinda frowned. You're doing that thing again. What thing? That quiet thing. Where you don't say what you mean. Just sit there judging. I'm not judging anyone. Sure feels like it. Miles set his cup down. My daughter was crying on the couch last night while you and Talia were getting drunk in the kitchen. You really want to talk about judging? Glinda's face hardened. We weren't drunk. We had a few glasses of wine. And Lena was fine. She was just sulking because Talia wouldn't drop everything to bake cookies with her. She said Talia told her she ruins everything. That's not what happened. You were there. I was in the kitchen. I heard the whole thing. Talia was exhausted and Lena kept whining about cookies. Talia just said she needed a break. That's it. The kid twisted it around in her head. Miles picked up his coffee again. His hands wanted to shake. He kept them steady. If you say so. I do say so. Glinda finished her coffee and set the cup in the sink with a clatter. You know what your problem is, Miles? You think you're perfect. You think because you go to work and bring home a paycheck, that makes you Father of the Year. But you don't see what it's like for Talia. You're gone all the time. She's stuck here alone with a kid. It's hard. Plenty of people manage. Well, maybe she needs more help than most people. Maybe she shouldn't be a mother then. The words came out before Miles could stop them. They hung in the air, cold and final. Glinda's mouth opened, then closed. Her face went red. How dare you? Forget it. Miles set his cup down and walked past her toward the hallway. I shouldn't have said that. You're damn right you shouldn't have. You're unbelievable, you know that? Talia deserves better. He didn't respond. He went to Lena's room and opened the door quiet. She was still asleep, curled under her blankets, the bear tucked under her chin. He watched her for a moment, then closed the door and went to take a shower. By the time he came out, Glinda was gone. Her car was pulling out of the driveway when Miles looked out the front window. Talia was awake, moving around the kitchen in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, looking hungover. She didn't look at him when he entered. Mom left, she said flatly. I know. She said you two had words. Something like that. Talia slammed the cabinet door. You couldn't just keep your mouth shut for one morning? She started it. Oh, grow up, Miles. You started it the second you walked in last night with that attitude. I didn't have an attitude. Yes, you did. You always do lately. Everything I do is wrong. Everything I say is wrong. I'm sick of it. Miles poured himself more coffee. I'm not doing this right now. Of course not. You never want to do anything. You just want to sit there and judge everyone. I'm not judging you. Bullshit. I'm worried about our daughter. That's different. Talia's laugh was sharp and bitter. Right. Because I'm such a terrible mother, right? That's what you think. I didn't say that. You don't have to. I can see it in your face. She grabbed her phone from the counter. I'm going out. I need air. Where are you going? Does it matter? You'll just assume I'm doing something wrong anyway. She left through the front door, keys jangling. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. Miles heard her car start, then pull away too fast. He stood in the kitchen, alone, the coffee going cold in his hand. Lena appeared in the doorway a few minutes later, rubbing her eyes. Where's Mom? She went out for a bit. Miles forced a smile. You hungry? I can make pancakes. Her face lit up. Really? Yeah. Go wash up. They ate pancakes at the kitchen table, just the two of them. Miles let Lena pour too much syrup and didn't comment when she got it all over her hands. They talked about school, about her friends, about the book she was reading. Normal things. Easy things. When they finished, Lena helped him wash dishes. She stood on a stool at the sink, soap bubbles up to her elbows, humming some song from a cartoon. Miles dried the plates and put them away. For a moment, everything felt okay. Then Lena said, Quiet, Daddy. Yeah. Mom always yells when you're gone. Miles stopped drying. What do you mean? Lena kept her eyes on the sink. When you go to work, she yells more. She gets mad at little things. And she says stuff. What kind of stuff? Like, Lena hesitated. Like she wishes you just leave forever. She said that once when I asked when you were coming home. The plate in Miles's hands felt heavy. He set it down careful on the counter. When did she say that? A few days ago. I asked when you'd be back, and she said, Who cares? And then she said she wishes you'd just leave forever so she could have her life back. She said that in front of you? Lena nodded. She pulled her hands out of the water and wiped them on a towel. I'm not supposed to tell. Grandma said I'm not supposed to tell you things Mom says when you're gone. Miles knelt down, so he was eye level with his daughter. Lena, listen to me. If someone tells you to keep a secret from me, that's wrong. Okay, you can always tell me anything. Always. No matter what Grandma or Mom or anyone says. I don't want Mom to be mad at me. She won't be. I promise. But I need you to tell me the truth about something. He took a breath. Does anyone else come to the house when I'm gone? Lena looked down at her feet. Sometimes. Who? I don't know his name. He's a man. He has a loud laugh. He comes over and they sit in the living room and drink. Mom told me to go to my room. Miles felt his heartbeat in his ears. How many times has this happened? I don't know. A lot. Maybe 5 times? 6? Grandma's usually here too. And they tell you to go to your room? Yeah. Or they send me to bed early. She looked up at him with worried eyes. Am I in trouble? No. Miles pulled her into a hug. She felt small and breakable. You did nothing wrong. But you don't tell Mommy I know about the man. Okay. Don't say anything to her. Why not? Because I need to figure some things out first. Can you do that for me? Can you keep this between us? Lena nodded against his shoulder. Good girl. He kissed the top of her head. Now go play. I'll clean up the rest. She ran off to her room. Miles stood in the kitchen, his hands gripping the edge of the counter, his mind racing. A man. Someone coming to his house while he was gone. Drinking with his wife. Laughing. And his daughter sent away to her room like she was in the way. He thought about Talia's reaction last night. The panic in her eyes when she saw him. The way she talked too fast, too much. The defensiveness. He thought about the bills. The money spent on things he didn't know about. He thought about his daughter crying alone on the couch. And he felt something inside him harden. Something cold and final. He needed proof. He needed to know exactly what was happening in his house when he wasn't there. And then he needed to decide what to do about it. Miles pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Rodney's number. Rodney lived 3 houses down and ran a small security business. Cameras, alarms, motion sensors. They'd had beers together a few times over the years. Good guy. Trustworthy. Miles pressed call. Hey, Miles. Thought you were in Kentucky. Got back early. Listen, you busy today? I need to ask you about something. Rodney's truck was parked in front of Miles's house by noon. A white panel van with R&R Security Solutions printed on the side in blue letters. Rodney himself was a stocky man in his 40s with graying hair and a permanent sunburn on his neck from too many years working outdoors. He climbed out with a toolbox in one hand and a black duffel in the other. Appreciate you coming over on short notice, Miles said, meeting him on the driveway. No problem. Wife's got the kids at her mother's today anyway. Rodney set the toolbox down and wiped his hands on his jeans. So what's going on? You said something about needing a camera? Miles glanced back at the house. Talia still wasn't home. Lena was inside watching cartoons. Yeah, I need to borrow one. Just for a few days. What for? Just need to keep an eye on some things while I'm at work. Rodney gave him a look. Miles, I've known you 5 years. You're not the paranoid type. What's really going on? Miles hesitated. Then, quietly, I think my wife's cheating on me. Rodney's expression shifted, surprise, then sympathy. Shit, man. You sure? Not yet. That's why I need the camera. You talked to her about it? Not yet. I need proof first. Rodney nodded slowly. Okay. Yeah, I get that. I've got a couple small units in the van. Wireless. Motion activated. They're designed for front porches, but they'll work inside too. Battery powered, so you don't have to worry about outlets. How long do they record? Couple days on a full charge. Footage uploads to a cloud server. You can watch it from your phone. Perfect. They went inside. Rodney showed Miles the camera, a small black box about the size of a deck of cards with a lens on the front. He demonstrated how to set it up, how to access the footage, how to adjust the motion sensitivity. Lena looked over from the couch once, but went back to her show without much interest. Were you thinking of putting it? Rodney asked, keeping his voice low. Miles looked around the living room, somewhere with a view of the front door, and the hallway to the bedrooms, if possible. Top of that bookshelf would work. Rodney pointed to the tall shelf in the corner near the entryway. Good angle. People don't usually look up. They place the camera on the top shelf, nestled between some old hardcover books Talia never read and a ceramic vase she'd bought at a yard sale. From the floor, you couldn't see the lens unless you knew to look for it. Rodney tested the angle on his phone, then nodded. That'll do. You're getting the whole entryway, part of the living room, and the hallway. Anyone comes in that front door, you'll see them. Good. Listen, Miles. Rodney packed up his toolbox. I know this is a shitty situation, but whatever you find, don't do anything stupid. Okay, keep your head. I will. I mean it. I've seen guys lose their cool over stuff like this. It never ends well. I'm not going to lose my cool. All right. Rodney handed him a card with login information written on it. That's your account info. Any problems, call me. Day or night. They shook hands. After Rodney left, Miles sat on the couch next to Lena and pretended to watch cartoons while his mind spun. The camera sat 15 feet away, invisible, waiting. Talia came home around 3. She didn't say where she'd been. Just walked past Miles to the bedroom and closed the door. He heard drawers opening and closing, water running in the bathroom. When she finally emerged, her eyes were red like she'd been crying. I'm going to my mom's for a few days, she announced, a bag slung over her shoulder. Miles looked up from the couch. What? You heard me. I need space. I can't be here right now. Space from what? From you. From this. Everything. She gestured vaguely at the house. I'm suffocating here. What about Lena? What about her? She's got you. You're the perfect parent, right? You've got it all figured out. Talia, I'll be back in a few days. Tell Lena I had to help Grandma with something. She headed for the door. Wait. Miles stood. We should talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I'm leaving. I'll call later. The door slammed. Through the front window, Miles watched her throw the bag in the back seat and peel out of the driveway. Lena appeared next to him, confused. Where's Mom going? Grandma's house. For a visit. Why? She needs to help Grandma with some things. Oh. Lena didn't sound convinced. Is she mad at us? No, baby. She's just tired. She'll be back soon. That night, Miles made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner and let Lena stay up an extra hour past her bedtime. They played cards at the kitchen table. Go fish, then crazy eights. Lena won both games and grinned with all her teeth showing. When she finally went to bed, she hugged him extra tight. Night, Daddy. Night, baby. He waited until her breathing evened out, then pulled out his phone. The security app Rodney installed sat on his home screen. He opened it and navigated to the live feed. The camera view showed the empty living room, grainy and washed out in the low light. He toggled to the recorded footage from earlier. Nothing interesting, just him and Lena moving through the frame, Rodney setting up the camera. He told Talia on Tuesday morning that he had an overnight job in Columbus. A hotel needed emergency repairs on their cooling system, and the company promised double time. Talia barely reacted over the phone, so that was fine. Said she'd still be at her mom's anyway. Didn't ask about Lena. Miles made arrangements for Lena to stay with a friend from school, a girl named Emma, whose mother, Janet, had always been friendly and reliable. Janet said, of course, no problem, Lena could sleep over any time. Wednesday afternoon, Miles drove Lena to Emma's house. On the way, Lena asked if Mom was coming home soon. I don't know, sweetheart. Did I do something wrong? No. Why would you think that? Because she left after we had pancakes. And she hasn't called. Miles pulled up to a red light and looked over at his daughter. None of this is your fault. Okay. Adults have problems sometimes that have nothing to do with kids. You didn't do anything wrong. Promise? Promise. At Emma's house, Janet gave Miles a look that said she knew something was off but was too polite to ask. Miles thanked her, kissed Lena goodbye, and drove home. He parked 3 blocks away on a side street where his truck wouldn't be visible from the house. Then he sat and waited. His phone sat on the passenger seat, the security app open. The live feed showed an empty living room. The timestamp read 4:17 p.m. An hour passed. Miles watched traffic go by, watched neighbors walk dogs. A jogger in neon shoes ran past, earbuds in, oblivious. At 5:43 p.m., movement on the phone screen. Miles picked it up. The camera showed the front door opening. Talia walked in first, her purse over her shoulder, laughing at something. Then a man followed. Tall, maybe 30, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt untucked. Dark hair, a grin that showed too many teeth. Miles's hands tightened on the phone. They stood in the entryway. The man, Colby, Miles would learn later, pulled Talia close and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. A deep, hungry kiss that lasted several seconds. When they broke apart, Talia laughed again and said something Miles couldn't hear. No audio on the camera, just silent footage of his wife with another man. Behind them, someone else entered, Glenda. She carried a bottle of wine and was already smiling, already complicit. The three of them moved into the living room, out of frame. Miles switched to the hallway view. Nothing yet. He waited. 10 minutes later, Lena appeared. Miles's stomach turned. His daughter walked down the hallway from her bedroom, rubbing her eyes like she'd been asleep. She was wearing her pajamas, pink with cartoon unicorns. She looked small and confused. She walked into the living room, out of view. Seconds later, she reappeared in the hallway, moving faster. Her face was scrunched up like she was about to cry. She went back to her room and closed the door. Miles grabbed the door handle of his truck, ready to storm the house. Then he stopped. If he went in now, they'd deny everything, claim it was innocent, gaslight him into thinking he overreacted. No, he needed to see more, needed irrefutable proof. He forced himself to sit back and keep watching. An hour later, Glenda and Talia came down the hallway together, laughing. They went to Lena's door and opened it. Miles couldn't see inside the room, but he saw Talia's body language, sharp, annoyed. She pointed back toward the living room. Then she pulled the door shut hard and walked away. The footage kept recording. Miles watched the whole thing. Watched the man, Colby, use the bathroom at 7:04 p.m. Watched him and Talia disappear into the master bedroom at 7:31 p.m. Watched Glenda refill her wine glass 3 times. Watched Lena's door stay closed the entire evening. At 9:15 p.m., Colby and Glenda left together. Talia walked them to the door. More kissing. More laughter. Then Talia walked to Lena's room. The door opened. Even without audio, Miles could read the tension in his wife's body. The sharp gestures, the pointing. She yelled at their daughter. That much was clear. Then she shut the door again and went back to the living room. Miles stopped the recording. He sat in his truck in the dark, his phone screen glowing, and felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. Just a cold, clear certainty. He started the truck and drove to Nina's apartment. Nina was Miles's cousin on his father's side. 10 years older, sharp as a knife, with zero tolerance for bullshit. She'd worked as a social worker for nearly 2 decades. She'd seen things that would break most people, and she'd come out harder for it. She lived alone in a small apartment near downtown, filled with books and plants and framed photos of nieces and nephews. She answered the door in sweatpants and university hoodie, a glass of iced tea in one hand. Miles, what are you doing here? I need to show you something. Her expression shifted when she saw his face. Come in. They sat at her kitchen table. Miles handed her his phone without explanation and pressed play on video. Nina watched in silence, her jaw tightening with each passing minute. When it ended, she set the phone down carefully. How long has this been going on? She asked. I don't know. Lena says the man's been coming around for weeks. Maybe longer. And Glenda knows? She's helping, bringing wine, making sure Lena stays out of the way. Nina rubbed her eyes. Jesus, Miles. I need to know what I can do. Legally. You need to call the police. For what? Adultery's not illegal. No, but this is... Nina gestured at the phone. That's child neglect. Emotional abuse. Your daughter is being traumatized in her own home. That is illegal. Will they actually do anything? If you file a report? Yes. Especially with video evidence. This isn't ambiguous, Miles. She's yelling at Lena for walking into her own living room. She's letting strange men around your child without your knowledge. She's prioritizing her affair over her daughter's well-being. Miles nodded slowly. What's the process? Nina stood and grabbed her laptop from the counter. We need to document everything. I'll help you file a report with Child Protective Services tonight. Tomorrow, you go to the police station and file a formal complaint. Bring the video. Bring any other evidence you have. texts, bills, witnesses if possible. Then what? Then they investigate. They'll probably interview Lena. Interview you. Maybe interview Talia and Glenda too. How long does that take? Depends. Could be days. Could be weeks. But with video evidence this clear, they'll move fast. They spent the next 2 hours at Nina's kitchen table. She walked him through the CPS website, helped him write a detailed statement, saved copies of the video to a flash drive and her own computer. She made notes on dates, times, specific incidents. She asked questions Miles didn't want to answer, but forced himself to, about Lena's behavior recently, about changes he'd noticed, about things his daughter had said. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. Nina walked him to the door and put a hand on his shoulder. "This is going to get ugly," she said. "You know that, right?" "I know. Talia is going to fight back. Glenda's going to defend her. They'll call you controlling. They'll say you're overreacting. They might try to turn it around on you. Let them. Are you ready for that?" Miles looked at her. "My daughter cried herself to sleep while my wife fucked another man in the next room." "Yeah, Nina. I'm ready." She squeezed his shoulder. "Good. Call me tomorrow after you talk to the police." Miles drove home and slept on the couch with the TV on, too wired to go to the bedroom. He picked Lena up from Emma's house in the morning and made her favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes. She seemed happier, more like herself. Emma's mom had let them stay up late watching movies and eating popcorn. "Did you have fun?" Miles asked. "Yeah, Emma's mom is really nice. She let us paint our nails." "I see that." Lena's fingernails were bright purple with sparkles. "Very pretty. Can I sleep over there again sometime?" "Maybe." After breakfast, Miles took Lena to school. Then he drove to the Dayton Police Department. The building was a squat concrete structure downtown, surrounded by parking meters and barred windows. Inside, the waiting area smelled like stale coffee and cleaning solution. A bored receptionist directed him to the Family Services Division on the second floor. The detective who took his statement was a woman in her 50s named Detective Carr. She had short gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. She listened to Miles's story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When he showed her the video, she watched it twice, her expression unreadable. "You said your daughter is 8?" she asked when it finished. "Yeah. And she witnessed all of this." She walked in on them. Then her mother sent her back to her room. Detective Carr nodded. "Mr. Redding, I'm going to be straight with you. What you've shown me is concerning. It's not enough for criminal charges against your wife. Adultery isn't a crime, and while the neglect is troubling, it's not severe enough to meet the threshold for prosecution. But it's absolutely enough for CPS to get involved, and it's enough to support a custody case if you decide to file for divorce. I already filed a CPS report last night." "Good. That's good. They'll likely contact you within 48 hours to schedule an interview." She tapped her pen on the pad. "In the meantime, I'm going to document all of this. I'll submit it to CPS as corroborating evidence. I'm also going to flag it in our system in case any future incidents are reported. That's it. For now, yes. Unless something more serious happens, violence, direct threats, abandonment, there's not much more I can do from a criminal standpoint. But family court? That's a different story. You get a good lawyer and show them this video, you'll get full custody. No question. What if she tries to take Lena before the court date? File for emergency custody. Today if possible. Your lawyer can help with that." Miles stood. "Okay. Thank you. Mr. Redding?" Carr looked up at him. "For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. A lot of fathers wouldn't notice what's happening, or they'd ignore it. You're not ignoring it. Your daughter's lucky." Miles didn't feel lucky. He felt tired and angry and sick to his stomach. But he nodded and left. He called a lawyer that afternoon, a family attorney named Patricia Reeves who came recommended by Rodney. She had an office in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Her waiting room had plastic plants and outdated magazines. But when Miles explained the situation and showed her the video, her expression turned fierce. "We're filing today," she said. "Emergency custody, restraining order if necessary, and a formal petition for divorce. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow morning." That fast. I don't mess around when children are involved. Miles left her office feeling like he'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped, like watching a boulder roll downhill. All he could do now was make sure he wasn't standing in its path when it crashed. That night, Miles made dinner for Lena, spaghetti with meatballs, her favorite. They ate in front of the TV, watching a kid's movie about talking animals. Lena laughed at the funny parts. She didn't ask about her mother, didn't mention the man or grandma, or any of it. Maybe she was just being a kid, living in the moment. Or maybe she knew, on some level, that things were about to change. After she went to bed, Miles sat on the couch with his phone. The security app still showed the empty living room. He navigated to the saved videos and watched the footage again. Not because he needed to see it, but because he needed to remember. Remember Talia's laugh, the easy way she kissed Colby, the casual cruelty when she yelled at Lena. Remember why he was doing this. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Detective Carr. CPS contacted me. They're sending someone to interview you and your daughter tomorrow at 3 p.m. They'll call with the location. Be ready." Miles typed back, "I will." He set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow. Everything changed tomorrow. Friday afternoon arrived clear and cold. Miles picked Lena up from school early, telling the office she had a doctor's appointment. Lena asked where they were going. "We need to talk to someone," Miles said. "She's a nice lady who wants to make sure you're okay." "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby. Not at all." The interview took place at a CPS office in a nondescript building near the highway. The caseworker was a young woman named Madison with kind eyes and a soft voice. She sat with Lena in a small room with toys and crayons while Miles waited outside. Through the door, he could hear muffled conversation. Lena's voice, quiet and careful. Madison's, patient and encouraging. It lasted 40 minutes. When they came out, Lena looked exhausted. She ran to Miles and buried her face in his stomach. Madison gave him a look that said everything without words. "We'll be in touch, Mr. Redding," she said. Soon. That evening, Miles got the call. From Detective Carr again. "They're moving forward," she said. "CPS is opening a case. And I've got approval to move on your wife." "What does that mean?" "It means tomorrow we're bringing her in, officially, to answer questions about child neglect and endangerment. It's not an arrest. Not yet. But it's close." "Good. There's one more thing. We need you to be there when we confront her, to provide context, and to ensure your daughter's safety." "I'll be there. I'll text you the details." Miles hung up and sat in the quiet house, his heart pounding. This was it. The moment everything came to light. He thought about calling Talia, warning her. But why? She'd made her choices. Now she could live with them. He checked on Lena. She was asleep, the bear clutched tight. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Almost over, baby. Almost." Saturday afternoon. Miles got the text at 2:47 p.m. "She's at the house now. We're 10 minutes out." Miles was already there, parked down the street, watching. Talia's car sat in the driveway. Glenda's car, too. Through the front window, he could see movement, shadows crossing back and forth. A patrol car pulled up at 2:59 p.m. Detective Carr got out first, another officer behind her. They walked to the front door. Carr knocked 3 times, firm and official. The door opened. Glenda's face appeared, confused, then alarmed. Miles couldn't hear the conversation from where he sat, but he saw Glenda's mouth moving fast, her hands gesturing. Carr said something, and Glenda's face went pale. She stepped aside. Miles got out of his truck and walked toward the house. By the time he reached the driveway, Carr was already inside, the other officer at her side. Miles followed them in. The living room froze. Talia stood near the couch, wine glass in hand, her face cycling through confusion to recognition to horror when she saw Miles. Colby was there too, sitting on the couch, casual like he belonged. When he saw the police, he stood fast. "What the hell is this?" Talia demanded. Carr held up her badge. "Detective Carr, Dayton PD. Mrs. Redding, we need to talk to you about some allegations regarding your daughter." "What allegations?" "Who?" Talia's eyes snapped to Miles. "You called the cops on me?" Miles didn't answer. He just stood there, arms crossed, and stared. Glenda pushed past Carr. "This is insane. You can't just barge in here." "We can if there's a concern for child welfare," Carr said calmly. "Ma'am, I need you to step back. Where's Lena? Talia looked around like their daughter might appear. Where is she? What did you do? She's safe, Miles said, with someone who actually takes care of her. You son of a bitch. Mrs. Redding, Carr cut in. We have video evidence of you neglecting your daughter, of you prioritizing other activities over her safety and well-being. We need you to come with us to answer some questions. Video? What video? Miles pulled out his phone. He walked to the TV, connected it, and pressed play. The footage filled the screen. Talia and Colby kissing in the entryway. Glinda laughing in the background. Lena appearing, confused and scared. Talia yelling at her to go back to her room. The room went silent except for the video. Talia's face drained of color. Colby stood frozen, staring at the screen. Glinda's mouth opened and closed like a fish. When the video ended, Miles turned to face them. His voice was quiet. Calm. You were laughing while our daughter cried alone. I came home to that. You remember that night. Miles, you don't understand. No. He cut her off. I understand everything. You just don't understand what comes next. Carr stepped forward. Mrs. Redding, you're being charged with child neglect and endangerment. These are misdemeanors, but they're serious. You need to come with us. Wait, charged? You're arresting me? Not arresting. But you will need to answer questions at the station. If you refuse, then yes, we'll arrest you. Talia looked at Miles, her eyes desperate. Miles, please. Don't do this. We can talk. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. I'm your wife. Not for long. Glinda lunged forward. You ruined her life. You bastard. Miles turned to her. His voice stayed even. She ruined it herself. And you helped. The officer moved between them. Ma'am, you need to calm down. I'll kill him. That's enough. Carr grabbed Glinda's arm. You're done. Both of you need to leave this house. Now. It took 10 minutes to sort out. Talia refused to go quietly, yelling and crying as the officers led her to the patrol car. Glinda screamed threats from the driveway until another cruiser showed up to take her statement. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, watching. Colby tried to slip away during the chaos. Miles blocked his path. Move, Colby said. Get out of my house. It's not your house. It's hers too. Not anymore. Colby looked at the cops, then back at Miles. He must have seen something in Miles's face, something cold and final, because he didn't push. Just walked fast to his car and drove away. When it was over, Miles stood alone in the living room. The TV was still on, frozen on the last frame of the video. The house felt different now. Emptier, colder, but cleaner somehow. He turned off the TV and walked outside. The patrol car with Talia sat at the curb. She stared at him through the window, mascara running down her face, mouthing words he couldn't hear and didn't care to understand. Detective Carr approached him. You okay? Yeah. We'll need you to come to the station later to give an official statement. I'll be there. And your daughter? She's safe where she is. She's with my cousin, a social worker. She's fine. Carr nodded. Good. You did the right thing, Mr. Redding. Not everyone has the guts. The patrol car pulled away. Miles watched it go, taillights fading into the distance. He walked to Lena's room and sat on her bed. The stuffed bear sat propped against the pillow. He picked it up and held it, staring at the cartoon posters on the wall, the crayon drawings, the evidence of his daughter's innocence. It's over, he said to the empty room. No one's going to hurt you again. 3 months passed like water through fingers. Fall turned to winter. The trees on Birch Street lost their leaves, and the first snow fell on a Tuesday morning in early December. Miles stood at the courthouse steps, his lawyer Patricia beside him, a folder of documents under his arm. The building loomed gray and imposing, columns framing the entrance like a mouth ready to swallow him whole. But he wasn't afraid. He'd been preparing for this moment since the day he came home early. The judge had reviewed the evidence 2 weeks prior. Video footage, CPS reports, testimonies from Madison, the caseworker, from Detective Carr, from Nina. Even Lena's school counselor testified, describing the changes they'd noticed in her behavior over the past year. The withdrawal, the anxiety, the way she flinched when adults raised their voices. Talia's lawyer tried to argue that Miles had manipulated the evidence, that the video was taken without consent, that he'd orchestrated the whole thing to frame her. But the facts spoke louder than spin. The judge had seen the footage, had read the reports, had looked at the timeline of events, and connected the dots. Mr. Redding, Patricia said, adjusting her briefcase. Whatever happens in there, you stay calm. Don't react. Don't engage with Talia or Glinda if they try to provoke you. I know. I mean it. The judge is on our side, but one outburst could change that. I said I know. She studied his face, then nodded. All right, let's go. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than Miles expected. Wood paneling on the walls, fluorescent lights humming overhead, rows of benches that reminded him of church pews. Talia sat on the opposite side with her lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Glinda sat behind her, arms crossed, glaring at Miles like she could set him on fire with her eyes alone. Miles didn't look at them. He sat beside Patricia and kept his gaze forward. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. Everyone stood. She sat. Everyone else sat. The bailiff announced the case. In the matter of Redding versus Redding, custody dispute regarding minor child Lena Marie Redding. The judge shuffled papers. I've reviewed all submitted materials. Both parties have had ample opportunity to present evidence and testimony. Are there any final statements before I issue my ruling? Talia's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we'd like to reiterate that Mrs. Redding has completed a court-mandated parenting class and has been attending therapy regularly. She's made significant efforts to address the concerns raised. I've seen the documentation. Counsel, anything else? No, Your Honor. Mr. Redding's counsel? Patricia stood. No, Your Honor. We believe the evidence speaks for itself. Very well. The judge looked down at the documents. This is not an easy decision, though in many ways it's very clear. The evidence shows a pattern of neglect, poor judgment, and prioritization of adult relationships over the child's welfare. Mrs. Redding's actions created an unsafe, emotional environment for Lena. While I acknowledge her recent efforts at rehabilitation, the damage has been done, and trust must be rebuilt over time, not rushed in a courtroom. Talia's face crumpled. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder. Therefore, the judge continued, I am granting full physical and legal custody to the father, Miles Redding. Mrs. Redding will have supervised visitation rights to be reevaluated after 6 months pending completion of therapy and demonstration of consistent, appropriate parenting behavior. This ruling is effective immediately. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Miles exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. Patricia squeezed his arm. Across the room, Talia broke down sobbing. Glinda's voice rose. This is bullshit. You're destroying a family. Mrs. Montgomery, the judge said sharply. Control yourself or I'll have you removed. Glinda went silent, but her glare could have melted steel. Miles stood and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Outside, the cold air bit at his face. He stood on the courthouse steps and pulled out his phone. Nina answered on the second ring. How'd it go? I got full custody. She gets supervised visits in 6 months. Oh, thank God. Nina's voice cracked with relief. How are you feeling? Tired, I bet. You want me to bring Lena by the house later? Yeah, I'll make dinner. She's going to be so happy, Miles. I know. They hung up. Patricia emerged behind him, smiling. You did good in there. Real good. Thanks for everything. Just doing my job. She handed him a folder. Here's the official custody order. Keep it somewhere safe. If Talia gives you any trouble, call me immediately. I will. She left. Miles stood alone on the steps, watching traffic pass. People hurried by with coats pulled tight, breath fogging in the cold. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. He thought about the last 3 months. The court hearings. The interviews. The nights lying awake wondering if he'd done the right thing. If he'd gone too far. If he'd broken something that couldn't be fixed. Then he thought about Lena. About the way she'd started smiling again. Started sleeping through the night. Started talking about school without that haunted look in her eyes. And he knew. He'd done exactly what needed to be done. Talia spent 6 days in county jail before her mother bailed her out. The charges stuck: misdemeanor child neglect and endangerment. She pleaded guilty in a deal that gave her probation, community service, and mandatory therapy. No jail time beyond those first 6 days. The divorce was finalized in January. Talia signed the papers without fighting. Maybe she knew she'd lost. Maybe she just wanted it over. Either way, Miles was fine with it. She moved into a small apartment across town with money from Glenda. Miles never asked what happened to Colby. Didn't care. That part of her life was no longer his concern. Glenda left town entirely, relocating to Indianapolis to live with Talia's brother. But before she left, she made sure Miles knew how she felt. Showed up at the house one evening, unannounced, while Lena was at school. Miles answered the door to find her standing on the porch, her face hard and bitter. "You happy now?" she spat. "You destroyed my daughter. I protected mine. She lost everything because of you. She lost everything because of her own choices. You're poison, Miles. Vindictive poison. You couldn't just forgive her. You had to ruin her life. She ruined it herself." Miles started to close the door. "You need to leave. I hope you're rot." Glenda's voice shook with rage. "I hope Lena grows up and realizes what you are. A controlling bastard who tore her family apart." Miles stopped. He looked at her, and his voice came out flat and cold. "If Lena ever asks what happened, I'll tell her the truth. That her mother chose a bottle of wine and a stranger over her. That her grandmother helped, and that I stopped it. Now get off my porch." He shut the door in her face. Through the window, he watched her storm to her car, screaming profanities he couldn't quite hear. She peeled out of the driveway, tires squealing. He never saw her again. By March, Lena had started therapy with a counselor who specialized in childhood trauma. Her name was Dr. Peters, a patient woman with kind eyes and a calm voice. She worked with Lena on coping strategies, on understanding that none of what happened was her fault, on rebuilding her sense of safety and self-worth. Miles drove her to every appointment, waited in the lobby reading magazines. Sometimes Dr. Peters would ask to speak with him separately, checking in on how Lena was doing at home, offering advice on how to support her. "She's resilient," Dr. Peters said after one session. "Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for. But she needs consistency, routine, and she needs to know you're not going anywhere." "I'm not." "Good, because that's what she needs most. Stability." At school, Lena started flourishing. Her grades improved. She made new friends. She joined the school choir and practiced songs in her room, her voice high and sweet and unbroken. One evening in April, she came to Miles while he was making dinner. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby? Can I ask you something?" "Always." She twisted her hands together. "Is Mom ever coming back?" Miles set down the knife he was holding and turned to face her. "What do you mean? To live here? Is she coming back to live here?" "No, sweetheart. She's not." Lena nodded slowly. "Okay. Does that make you sad?" "A little." "But—" She hesitated. "I don't miss her yelling, or feeling like I did something wrong all the time." Miles knelt down so he was eye level with her. "You never did anything wrong." "I know. Dr. Peters tells me that too." "Do you believe it?" "Mostly." She smiled a little. "It's getting easier." He pulled her into a hug. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. May brought warmer weather and longer days. Talia called collect from county jail in early May, 6 months after everything fell apart. Miles was at work when his phone rang. He saw the automated message about accepting a call from an inmate and almost declined. But something made him accept. "Miles!" Talia's voice sounded thin and desperate. "What do you want?" "Please. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about." "Please, Miles. I've changed. I'm in therapy. I'm doing everything the court asked. I just want to see Lena." "No. She's my daughter too. You should have thought about that before you let a stranger into our house. Before you yelled at her for existing. Before you chose everything else over her. I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying. You don't get to fix this, Talia. You broke something that can't be fixed. She's my baby. She cried every night because of you. I'm not letting her relive that. You can't keep her from me forever." Miles's voice went cold. "Watch me." He hung up. The phone rang again immediately. He declined the call. It rang a third time. He blocked the number. He stood in the break room at work, his hands shaking, his heart pounding. Around him, coworkers moved in and out, grabbing coffee, heating up lunch. No one noticed him standing there, alone, cutting his daughter's mother out of their lives with a press of a button. No guilt, no regret, just a clear certainty that this was what needed to happen. Talia tried calling 2 more times that week from different numbers. Miles blocked them all. She sent letters. He threw them away unopened. She showed up at the house once, a violation of the restraining order, and Miles called the police. She was gone before they arrived, but it was documented. Another mark against her. Eventually, she stopped trying. Late May, Lena's school held its annual spring concert. Miles sat in the packed auditorium, surrounded by parents with phones raised to record their kids. The stage was decorated with paper flowers and hand-painted backdrops. The lights dimmed. The principal introduced the choir. Lena stood in the front row, wearing a white dress Miles had bought special for the occasion. Her hair was pulled back with a ribbon. She looked nervous, her hands folded in front of her. But when the music started, she sang. Her voice rose clear and strong above the others. She smiled as she sang, her whole face lighting up. Miles's throat tightened. He recorded every second on his phone, hands steady, heart full. When the concert ended, the kids filed off stage to applause. Miles waited near the hallway, watching the crowd. Then Lena appeared, pushing through the other children, her eyes searching. When she saw him, she ran. "Daddy, did you see me?" He caught her and lifted her up, even though she was getting too big for it. "I saw you. You were amazing. Really, really, best singer up there." She grinned and hugged his neck. "I'm so glad you came home early." The words stopped him. "What? You came home early today? To see me? Just like before." Miles laughed. It surprised him, how easy it felt. "Yeah, baby, I did. Will you always come home early for me?" He set her down and knelt in front of her, his hands on her shoulders. "I'm never leaving you alone again. I promise." She hugged him tight. Around them, other families laughed and talked and took photos. The world kept moving. But for Miles, in that moment, everything stood still. He'd lost his wife, lost his marriage, lost the illusion that his life was what he thought it was. But he kept the only thing that mattered. They walked out of the school together, hand in hand, into the warm Ohio evening. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting everything gold. Lena chattered about the concert, about her friends, about something funny that happened at lunch. Miles listened and smiled, and felt something he hadn't felt in months. Peace, not forgiveness. He'd never forgive Talia, never forgive Glenda, never forget what they did. But he didn't need to. Forgiveness was surrender, and he refused to surrender. What he had instead was better. Justice, safety, his daughter's laughter. That was enough. They got ice cream on the way home, sat outside the shop eating cones while traffic passed by. Lena got chocolate all over her dress and didn't care. Miles wiped it off with napkins and didn't care either. "Daddy," Lena said through a mouthful of ice cream. "Yeah, I love you. I love you too, baby. More than anything, more than anything." She smiled and went back to her ice cream. Miles watched her, this small person who depended on him for everything, who trusted him completely, who he'd fight the whole world to protect. And he thought about that night 3 months ago, coming home early, finding her crying, the way everything changed in an instant. Sometimes life gave you choices. Sometimes it gave you tests. And sometimes it just asked you one simple question: what matters most? Miles had answered, and he'd never looked back.